Terry from Apple Valley, California listens on the internet, and we're glad you do. How are you, Terry?
I need help.
You need
I
help.
called.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us what's going on.
A few months ago, my husband left our home. He has this alcohol substance abuse problem, and that leads to a whole other set of problems, financial and responsibility as well. I've got 2 young boys, 11 and 13, in our home, and since he's been gone, I assume both roles. In addition to that, I've also taken on the care of my elderly mom, and my plate's gotten full. Honor your mother and your father, and I'm trying to do it all.
Yeah.
So, in trying to do all that, I have some boundary issues, and I did start a class, boundaries, that's given at a local church, and I've only been there one time, first week. Love it. Read the book. Thank you. Henry Cloud and John Townsend, good book, wonderful book. But my question is, I'm dealing with emotional problems. I've got, on top of my emotions, I'm just crying, depressed, anxiety, and some negative feelings, trying not to become resentful and bitter as well. And I want to know, what can I do in the meantime? I took an assessment on Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. Townsend's website. It's a depression assessment.
How'd you do on that?
And well, if you answered yes to 2 of those, you would be a candidate. I think I was at 6 or 7 of them. And so I called New Life this morning and spoke with a gentleman, and he has a counselor set up. But again, what do I do in the meantime? I am falling apart at the seams.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called us. You do have a full plate. What do you think, guys?
Well, I think that crying and to be depressed and to be anxious right now, Terry, is appropriate. You've had a major loss. Your husband has left you. There's what we call situationally appropriate anxiety, situationally appropriate depression, and you've suffered some major losses, and then you have your young dependent boys and a dependent parent. It's a lot to have on a plate, and I think part of it is a lot of people don't want to allow themselves to be at all negative. You used that word a moment ago. And it's important to allow these negative emotions to have some place in our life at some point, and to acknowledge their reality, their God-given emotions. Now, when they go on too long and when they are a runaway train for years, that's a different problem. But I just want to start by saying and validating you that I think I'd be crying and depressed and anxious right there too.
Okay.
And then we're going to come back. I was just saying it is appropriate for us to go through and have a variety of different feelings, especially if we suffer losses and we have pain in our lives. That there's some of that's appropriate.
Yeah. Henry, you got a thought?
Yeah. Terry, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I've got 2 questions for you. One of them has to do with what's going on with your husband and the path that he's on. And, you guys have separated because of his drinking, but is he in recovery? Is anything happening that would turn that situation around?
I know God is into changing lives, and you mentioned something a little bit ago about objective reasons, and
right.
I was
That's what
paying
I'm asking
attention
for.
to that. And we actually started out as Christians. That was important to me when we got married. We had one direction we were going. Somewhere we both got lost. He always has had an alcohol issue. I didn't know at the time I married him that it was an alcohol abuse problem. I thought he drank like most people drink in a barbecue. It wasn't revealed to me up front.
But he was kind of going to barbecue every night?
Yeah, it was barbecue and then just stopped at bar. After a while, after a short time,
barbecue got shortened to just bar.
It just went to
That
bar.
is okay. Now I want to tell you something, Terry.
Yeah.
That is
That was
funny.
funny.
That is
That
one
is.
of the funniest things I've heard.
I'm writing that down.
Barbecue got shortened to bar.
Just the bar.
In a
All
short
right, so
time.
so I gotta hurry along here because we're going to be short on time. But the question is, is he in recovery? Is anything happening?
He is at this time not in recovery with a professional. He's in his own recovery.
Well, there's no such thing as own recovery.
He's self-reliant on his own plan.
Okay, so he's
So,
not doing
no.
anything. What leverage do you? Is he interested in the marriage?
He and I had a conversation where he said he is working on himself, trying to figure out who he is right now. He hasn't let go, but he's not going to be coming back until he's well on his way, knowing who he is. So he's looking into himself at this point.
Yeah, I think what I would want to do at some point in the not too distant future is get some kind of definition on that process, because that could last for decades. Okay? So I think what you would want at some point, and if I were you, I wouldn't do it without sitting down with a good alcohol counselor, either, somebody's been in AA for 100 years or some professional. And I don't mean a therapist, because by and large, a lot of times therapists are very, very good at treating the stuff they treat, but they haven't treated enough alcoholics to know how to deal with one. Okay? You want to get with somebody that's dealt with 5,000 alcoholics, right?
Okay.
And so they will sit down with you and you construct a plan. At some point, you're going to end up going to him and saying, I want to pursue our marriage, and I want to have a plan and know how we're going to do that, and we've got to be seeing someone together to structure that and know when A, B, C, and D are going to happen. And I don't mind giving it time. I just want time to have some definition. And then I want to know that you are sober, because I'm not going to go forward in planning something that, somebody's got a substance problem. And
Right.
so you get all that defined. And I think you've got to do that. Now, here's why I say that. Because what Mylon was talking about it's appropriate for you to have negative emotions, and you've got to embrace those. Well, one of the reasons why it needs to be appropriate and you have to embrace them is you've got to sort out which ones are good ones and which ones are bad ones. Because it's very possible that you get stuck in this caretaking role past your capacities with your mother, and this enabling him past what is reasonable with your husband. And you're in pain and grief, and it's not appropriate pain and grief. It's the getting stabbed over and over and over by him every day, and that grief doesn't lead to any kind of resolution. And it's getting overextended in the caretaking role, which leads to caretaker burnout. So you've got to add some structure to this where your limits come into play. That's what boundaries are about. And you know how much you're going to give to your mother and how much you cannot, that doesn't exceed you. And you know what kind of time you'll give to your husband and what kind you won't. And then on the other side, where you're getting your tummy filled up with care giving from other people, where you become the recipient. And in all that, I think you'll begin to have more hope.
I got it.
And let me add one thing. Start the conversation with him with, I miss you, I miss us. And I think this is a very important time in our life to bring us back together. And then you talk about the requirements of what would make that happen.
Okay.
Because he needs to know that you really care about him and you love him. And it's just sad that he's not drinking, but he's not moving forward either.
And to be proactive.
Yeah.
I don't understand the leaving and then trying to dry up. I just feel like it's something that we could do to support each other.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's hard to understand the mind of an alcoholic, whether it's drunk or whether it's a dry drunk or it's still affected by the effects of long-term alcohol saturation. So that's why Henry's saying don't go to a therapist. Any therapist sits down with an alcoholic
That hasn't treated a bunch of them.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Well, it's not going to be very accurate, probably, a very accurate description, because deception is one of the deception and denial, two major pieces of that addiction picture.